There is something about hearing one of your favorite characters say the word Bankai which hits different. A Bankai typically takes over 10 years to master, and it increases the combat capabilities of a Zanbakuto's Shikai by up to 5 to 10 times. Some Bankai manifest as giant creatures, while others completely reshape the battlefield. A few are so dangerous that they cannot be used around allies. In this video, I'll be analysing all of the Bankai forms from the manga, the anime exclusive Bankai from the 1000-year Blood War arc, as well as the Bankai that only feature within the Bleach light novels. We'll cover false Bankais and true forms, as well as upgrades, evolutions, and some of the most broken Bankai that you've ever seen. In total, we'll be breaking down over 30 Bankai. But you know who doesn't have a Bankai? All of the people who aren't subscribed to the channel. Only 20% of the people who watch my content are subscribed, so if you enjoy these breakdowns, then hit the subscribe button and stick around for more Bleach content just like this. We're starting with Ichigo because his Bankai is a bit of a mess. His first Bankai, Tensa Zangetsu, debuts in chapter 162. While literally every other Bankai is some massive spectacle or a giant creature, Ichigo's Bankai does the opposite. It shrinks his oversized Zanbakuto into a sleek black Japanese longsword. Byakuya straight up laughed at him as he called it a knockoff Bankai because he couldn't comprehend what he was looking at. The transformation also reflects Ichigo's clothing. His black coat with the red lining becomes part of the Bankai itself, and the condition of his outfit directly correlates to how much power he has left. Chapter 382 confirms this. His Zanbakuto also gains a chain on the handle which replaces the cloth from his Shikai. The core ability of Tensa Zangetsu is compression. All of Ichigo's Reiatsu gets condensed into his blade and his body, giving him speed that produces multiple after images and cutting power that can slice through Espada level iron skin. His Getsuga Tensho becomes black with a red outline, and he can control the trajectory of Getsuga Tensho as well as its power and speed with far more precision than before. Ichigo achieved this false Bankai in 2 days using a Tenshintai, which is absolutely insane considering that the standard for Bankai attainment is 10 or more years. Now, the problem with this false Bankai is that Old Man Zangetsu was holding him back the entire time. This was never the true form of his Bankai. His true Tensa Zangetsu appears in chapter 678, after his Zanbakuto is reforged in the Royal Palace. His two Shikai blades merge into a single weapon where a black blade is encased within a white outer shell. Yhwach immediately destroys Ichigo's true Bankai. This alone should reveal to you just how dangerous this new power is. Yhwach saw futures where this Bankai killed him, so he eliminated the threat before it could manifest. When Tsukishima and Orihime restore the blade, Ichigo fires an enhanced golden Getsuga that cuts Yhwach in two. Yhwach reverses his death with the Almighty as he tries to break the Zanbakuto again, but this time he only shatters the white outer casing. What's revealed underneath resembles Ichigo's original false Shikai. The theory that makes the most sense here is that Ichigo's true Bankai grants him the power to overcome despair by shattering fate, a complementary ability to Orihime's power to reject phenomena. Ichigo's true Bankai incorporates everything: his hollow powers via the horn on his head, his Fullbring powers through the armor that forms on his body, his Shinigami powers through internal Reiatsu control, and his Quincy powers via external Reishi absorption. Every aspect of his hybrid soul works in harmony in his true Bankai. Now moving on, we have Zanka no Tachi, the most powerful and feared Bankai in all of Bleach. For over 1,000 years, this single Bankai has been the ultimate deterrent. He is what makes it terrifying. Ryujin Jaka normally produces the most destructive flames in the Soul Society, but in its Bankai, all of those flames get absorbed into the blade itself. The sword becomes scorched and withered with zero visible fire. It looks like a burnt stick. But this is very deceiving because the temperature surrounding Yamamoto's body now reaches 15 million degrees, the surface of the sun. Standing near him would incinerate you before you could even process what's happened. The Bankai operates in 4-directional techniques, which Yamamoto developed and refined over a millennium. Zankai no Tachi East concentrates all heat at the tip of the blade. Anything that it touches gets erased from existence. It bypasses brute defenses entirely, and there's no defending against it. Zankai no Tachi West cloaks Yamamoto's body in that 15 million degree heat. Even if you try to touch him, you will be incinerated before even making contact. The flame is invisible, which makes it even more dangerous. Zankai no Tachi South is terrifying, as Yamamoto stabs the ground and summons ash corpses of everyone that he's ever killed with his flames. 10 trillion bodies rise up to fight for him. Imagine facing an army of everyone your enemy has ever executed. And lastly, we have Zankai no Tachi North, which delivers a single concentrated slash which destroys everything in its path. The drawback of Zankai no Tachi is severe. If Yamamoto maintains this Bankai for too long, the Soul Society itself would burn away. The moisture in the air evaporates, the ground cracks, and he has to end fights quickly or he'll risk destroying his home. 1,000 years ago, he used only the East and West techniques against Yhwach. By the 1,000-year Blood War arc, he'd refined his Bankai to include all 4 parts. He warned Shunsui when he was young if he were to ever use his Bankai again that he would not survive. He was right in saying this, as Yamamoto got tricked into using it against Roid Lloyd's disguise, as the real Yhwach stole his Bankai before killing him. We then have the Bankai of Shunsui, Katen Kyokotsu Karamatsu Shinju. This Bankai operates like a theatrical stage play with 4 acts. It embodies something clever about Kubo's writing. Shunsui's Shikai makes children games real, but his Bankai makes adult games real. These games are centered around war, shame, suicide, and murder. Upon activation, black root-like tendrils spread from Shunsui's position, while Katen Kyokotsu's spirit appears behind him. This Bankai affects everyone in range, allies included. Ukitake specifically warned him during the Fate Karakura Town arc to never use it near comrades. The first act shares injuries between both fighters. Whatever wounds that one person inflicts onto another, they appear on their own body. Neither is unable to die during this phase. The second act manifests black spots on the attacker's body, triggering uncontrollable bleeding from whoever struck first in the previous act. The third act submerges both opponents in water, as this quickly becomes a test of endurance, as whoever has their Reiatsu depleted first will drown. The fourth act wraps a white thread around his opponent's neck as it tightens until their head explodes. Against Lil Barrow, the leader of Yhwach's Shoot Starfall, this Bankai dealt serious damage despite Lil being one of the most broken characters in the 1,000-year Blood War arc. The major limitations of Shunsui's Bankai is that acts 3 and 4 drain most of Shunsui's power, and if his opponent outclasses him in raw spiritual pressure, then the drowning act actually harms Shunsui more than his enemy. And if they are somehow able to survive Act 4, Shunsui is pretty much done for. Next, we have Unohana's Bankai Minazuki. Her Shikai is a giant, one-eyed green manta ray that heals people inside its stomach acid. In her Bankai, that very Zanpakuto liquefies into dark red, blood-like corrosive acid that melts flesh. We see this in chapter 526. When Kinpachi clashes with her after Bankai activation, he notices that he's melting. The acid reduces him down to a skeleton, with his hands being stripped to bone. His entire right side is exposed. The genius of this Bankai is its application. Unohana used it to repeatedly kill and revive Kinpachi during their training. She would melt him, heal him with her mastery of Kido, and melt him again, over and over again, doing this in order to force him to fight on the edge of death, to break through the mental barriers that she had accidentally placed on him centuries ago when they first fought. The downside is that her acid affects her too, as she counters this via continuous self-healing, but it creates vulnerability. Her Bankai translates to all things end. Her Shikai translates to flesh drop gorge, both named Minazuki but with different kanji. Urahara's Bankai Canon Beraki Benihime Aratame was revealed 23 chapters before the end of the Bleach manga. This Bankai manifests as a giant woman in a revealing red robe. The power of Urahara's Bankai is restructuring, as he can cut anything open within range offensively or stitch things back together together supportively. He used his Bankai to fix his own eyes after Askin blinded him. He is also able to enhance objects by restructuring them for better performance, and he is able to clear paths through barriers. The weakness of his Bankai is twofold. The changes from his Bankai are time limited. When the effects wear off, cuts and modifications revert. The range is also limited, which Askin figured out and exploited by moving outside the radius in order to negate Urahara's cuts that he had already made. While Urahara's Shikai reconstructs Reiatsu, his Bankai reconstructs actual matter. This then brings us to the unnamed Bankai of Kinpachi Zaraki. He is the only Shinigami in the history of the Gotei 13 to have become a captain without knowing the name of his Zanpakuto. His Shikai no Zarashi is revealed in the 1000-Year Blood War arc. It transforms his blade into a giant axe that is powerful enough to split a meteorite in half. His Bankai turns his skin red. As he grows horns from his forehead, it covers his body in black markings like an Oni, with his Zanpakuto becoming a shorter, jagged cleaver that looks broken. Against Gerard Valkyrie, Kinpachi toppled the giant Quincy with a single blow, ripped off his arms, and sliced him in half from a distance. Unfortunately, Kinpachi's body is unable to handle the power of his Bankai. His right arm burst with the overwhelming power when Gerard activated his holy form. Nozarashi actually apologized to him for this. The Bankai is completely unrefined as he has zero control. He goes full berserker, attacking the strongest opponent present without discrimination. Byakuya and Hitsugaya deliberately kept their distance when he activated this Bankai because they weren't sure if he was going to attack them. Nozarashi revealed to Kinpachi that if he uses her properly, then he can cut down anyone. The problem is learning how to use Nozarashi properly while his body literally tears itself apart in the process. Then we have Renji's Bankai. He has two Bankai because Zabimaru gave him a false name. The Zanpakuto didn't respect or recognize him as a warrior, so it held back deliberately. His false Bankai, called Hihio Zabimaru, manifests as a massive skeletal serpent with a red fur mane. Essentially, it's an enlarged version of his Shikai. It can crush enemies with bites and fire the Hikotsu Taiho cannon attack, but the skill required to control something that large is a major hindrance. What's worse is that the broken segments of his false Bankai never reform. Mayuri confirmed that pieces broken during Renji's fight with Byakuya way back in the Soul Society arc remained broken even in the 1000-Year Blood War arc. After training with the Royal Guard, Ichibei revealed Renji's true Bankai name, which is So-o Zabimaru. His true Bankai transforms the snake skull into a gauntlet with a retractable blade strapped to his arm. The vertebrae wrap around his waist. Above his left arm floats a giant skeletal baboon limb with green fur that mimics his movements with far greater power. He used it to crush Mask the Masculine's arm and throw him through buildings. His finishing technique, Zaga Teppo, requires Renji to stab his target and twist the blade as a massive snake made of reishi forms and bites down, while generating so much heat that it instantly incinerates the enemy. This is how he defeated Mask. The anime expanded upon Renji's true Bankai moveset considerably in episode 38. Techniques like Hihi Tensho, which restrain opponents with the green fur, as well as Zazeka, making the blade segmented like his Shikai, and Zagai Zeko charges an overwhelming energy blast. His true Bankai retains all the long-range benefits of Hihio Zabimaru while dramatically enhancing his close-range combat ability. We now move on to Rukia's Bankai Haka no Togame. Her Shikai Sodeno Shirayuki has 3 dances. The first dance, Tsukishiro, creates a circle that freezes everything within it. The second dance, Hakuren, blasts cold air forward. The third dance extends her blade with ambient moisture and freezes anything that it pierces. Her Bankai in chapter 569 takes all of this to the absolute limit. A pillar of cold air manifests and transforms Rukia entirely. A white kimono with flowing ribbons appears as we see her with white hair and ice sword as she reaches absolute zero temperature. Everything in range of her freezes solid and disintegrates within seconds as molecular motion stops. Touching Rukia while active means instant death. This is how she killed Asnod, his most powerful psychological attack, and she simply grabbed his arm and froze him solid as he shattered like glass. The cost of using this Bankai is extreme as her entire body freezes too, as she becomes ice herself. She can only sustain this Bankai for a brief period of time, or else she risks shattering her own body. Deactivating a Bankai too quickly can also cause lasting damage. Her hand cracked when she released it carelessly, and Byakuya had to help stabilize her condition. Byakuya referred to Hakano Togame as a magnificent Bankai, but he warned Rukia that the slightest mistake would cost her life. By the time that the 10-year Bleach epilogue has occurred, she's now a captain of the Gotei 13, so she must have gained the control necessary to use Hakano Togame without hurting herself. Next we have Senbonzakura Kageyoshi, the Bankai of Byakuya. This Bankai is activated when Byakuya extends his Zanbakuto blade down into the ground. A watery ripple spreads as massive blades emerge behind him, then each one separates into cherry blossom-like microblades. Thousands of tiny blades controlled by his Reiatsu. They attack with the force of 1,000 swords at the same time. The safe zone of his Bankai is 85 centimeters from his body. Blades can't enter that space without harming Byakuya. Senkei forms a cage of full-sized swords around both fighters. Gokei creates a sphere of blades that implodes on the target. Ika Senjinka controls every single blade at the same time, and it fires them all at one target. He used this against Gerard's frozen hand, and it left 0 traces behind. Shukei Hakuteiken condenses all blades into a single powerful sword with wing and halo structures on his back. Maximum cutting power concentrated into a single weapon. He has only used this form once in the manga, which is disappointing because it's one of the most coolest designs that Kubo's drawn. Then we have Daiguren Hyorimaru, the strongest ice-type Zanbakuto in the Soul Society, belonging to Hitsugaya. This manifests as ice covering his body with dragon wings and a tail. 3 ice flowers with 4 petals each appear behind him. A lot of people assume that these petals were a time limit for his Bankai, but instead they show how long until his Bankai fully matures. His incomplete Bankai form gives him Bankai regeneration as long as moisture exists in the air. He also has ice clone creation, and he is able to freeze opponents on contact. Hyoten Hyakuso opens a hole in the clouds, it drops snow, and it traps targets in an ice tower. When the final petal of his Bankai falls, Hitsugaya ages into his adult form. He appears taller with ice covering his shoulders, knees, and arms. He demonstrated the power to instantly freeze anything with a hand gesture, freezing Gerard's shield solid just by raising his hand. Shikai Hyoketsu charges for 4 seconds, and it freezes the 4 elements of earth, fire, water, and wind. Anything frozen loses all spiritual energy and abilities. Touching Hitsugaya in his adult form means instant freezing. Now unfortunately, his complete Bankai does have a stamina drain issue. His body hasn't fully grown to handle the strain, which is why he says he doesn't like using his complete adult form. Next we have Konjiki Ashisogi Jizo, the first Bankai ever shown in Bleach, debuting in chapter 125. It manifests as a huge caterpillar body with a golden baby head. It sprays lethal poison made from Mayuri's blood that spreads across a 100-mile radius, and it permeates through skin. The poison composition changes after every fight. Any antibodies created become useless against the new version of the poison. It can also self-destruct if anyone attempts to use it against him. His modified Bankai, Matai Fukuin Shotai, appears as a monstrous oversized purple-skinned baby in a golden loincloth with 2 horns forming balance scales. It rests on a pile of umbilical cords with a vertical gash on its belly. This version gives birth to a new Ashisogi Jizo based on accumulated battle data. Against Pernida, Mayuri created a version of his Bankai specifically designed to counter nerve invasion by having 70,000 layers of surface nerves. The symbolism with his Bankai runs deep, as caterpillars represent perpetual growth and evolution. Jizo references Buddhist guardians of children's souls. Kurotsuchi means black soil. Mayuri's entire philosophy about perfection being a never-ending process manifests perfectly via his Bankai. Following this, we have the Bankai of Gin Ichimaru Kamishini no Yari. His Shikai Shinzo extends on contracts at high speed, supposedly reaching 100 times its original length at 100 swords. His Bankai amplifies everything. It extends up to 8.1 miles at 500 times the speed of sound, retracting equally fast. It's the fastest Zanbakuto in existence. A single slash can cut an entire town in half from a considerable distance, but the length and speed were never the true abilities of Kamishini no Yari. Corrosive Kamishini no Yari is the true ability of this Bankai. For a split second during extension and retraction, the blade turns to dust and releases a deadly poison that breaks down cells. Gin is able to deposit a microscopic fragment inside his opponent and dissolve their body from the inside out whenever he chooses. His entire plan from the beginning was to get close enough to Aizen to use this ability. When he finally did, Aizen survived because the Hokyoku sensed his intent and protected its host, as it evolved Aizen's body to overcome Corrosive Kamishini no Yari. Then we have the Bankai of Tosen and Makorogi, the only character to simultaneously wield a Zanbakuto with a Shikai Bankai and Resurrection via his holification. His Bankai creates a massive black sphere of darkness called the Cricket of Hell. Anyone inside loses all senses except touch, complete sensory deprivation. The irony is devastating. A blind man's Bankai creates blindness in others as his world of silence becomes everyone's world. Kinpachi was able to defeat Enma Kurogi by relying purely on touch and the feeling of his Zanbakuto cutting through air. Komamura's Bankai was simply too large to be fully contained within the sphere. These weaknesses don't diminish how terrifying the concept of Tosen's Bankai is. Komamura's Bankai Kokujo Tengen Myo, the standard version, manifests as a giant armored warrior that mirrors his movements exactly. Damage to the giant equals damage to Komamura. The bond works both ways though, meaning that the Bankai heals when he heals. Bambietta stole this Bankai during the first Quincy invasion. In order to get it back and defeat her, Komamura learned his clan's humanization technique, which grants temporary immortality by surrendering his heart to his clan elder. When synchronized with his holified Bankai via Urahara's pills, the giant warrior becomes Dangai Jo. This giant mirrors Komamura's temporary immortality, as he crushed Bambietta even with her Explode Shrift and Volständig active. The cost was permanent though, as Komamura reverted to his wolf form once the humanization technique ended. This brings us to Soi Fon's Jakuho Raikoben. Her Shikai, Suzumebachi, is a finger-mounted stinger with the Nigeki Kisatsu ability. 2 strikes to the same spot equal instant death. It's the perfect ability for an assassination. Her Bankai is a giant golden missile launcher covering her right arm and extending past her shoulder with a face shield. A long-range, one-shot weapon with massive recoil that requires restraints to fire and completely hampers her mobility. Soi Fon hates her Bankai. Her lieutenant Omaida had never even seen it until the Fate Karakura Town arc. It's everything that her fighting style isn't. It's so loud and in your face, it's slow to deploy, and it's the opposite of stealth. The conflict between her Shikai and Bankai reflects her internal struggle. On the surface, she is cold and ruthless, but her explosive Bankai reveals a wild and sensitive temperament hiding underneath. The next Bankai is Koko Gonryo Rikyu, belonging to Chojuro Sasakibe, the lieutenant of the 1st Division. He mastered his Bankai, aspiring to become Yamamoto's right-hand man. This is a rare lightning-type Zanbakuto. The manga only showed us Driscoll Bursey using a weakened version of this stolen Bankai which had purple lightning, but the anime gave us an exclusive scene of Sasakibe using the original form of Koko Gonryo Rikyu. He raises his Zanbakuto as dark clouds gather, a massive bolt of lightning anchors to the ground, and he infuses his blade with crackling yellow energy. His Bankai left a scar on Yamamoto's forehead that Driscoll's stolen version couldn't even scratch. The power gap between the original owner and the Quincy version of this Bankai was so severe. Next is Kinshara Butoden, belonging to Rose Otaribashi. This is a performance-based Bankai connected to his whip Shikai Kinshara. It creates illusions through music. Opponents who hear the melody experience those illusions as reality. He uses this Bankai against Mask the Masculine during the 1000-Year Blood War arc, but Rose was defeated after he revealed the crucial weakness of his Bankai. If you are unable to hear the melody of Kinshara Butoden, then it is ineffective against you. We then have the Bankai of Kensei. His Shikai Tachikaze is a small combat knife that manipulates wind and generates explosions along strike paths. His Bankai Tekken Tachikaze transforms this into large knuckle duster gauntlets, as he has these on both fists which create massive wind-based explosions on contact. Against Mask, his attacks would have been lethal if Mask didn't have the healing shrift. Now, Ikkaku's Shikai Hozokimaru is a spear that transforms into a 3-section staff. His Bankai Ryumon Hozokimaru takes the form of 3 massive weapons with a dragon crest which fills with red as Ikkaku gives and takes damage. The crest fills faster when he spins the axe blade by the handle. His Zanpakuto is described as lazy, only waking up through battle injuries. When fully red, the Bankai reaches maximum power. He's only used this once against the Arrancar Edrad, one of Grimjar's Fashion, as he cut through the Arrancar's iron skin. The fight damaged Ikkaku's Bankai permanently. A broken Bankai isn't going to fully repair, and not to mention that Ikkaku deliberately keeps it weakened because he refuses to surpass Kinpachi or leave Squad 11, so he doesn't like it known that he has activated Bankai. Only a handful of people know about this Bankai, which include Renji, Yumichika, and a few others. He has willingly crippled his own power out of loyalty. The leader of the Zero Division, Ichibei in Yosebe, is the oldest and most powerful of all Shinigami. He named everything in the Soul Society, including all Shikai and Bankai. His Zanpakuto was the first to ever achieve an evolved form, before the word Bankai even existed. At this time, he called it Shin-Uchi instead, which means true blade. His Shikai Ichimonji is a giant calligraphy brush. Whatever its ink touches loses its name, and losing a name means losing power. He erased the name and power of Yhwach's sword and medallion just by striking them. His Bankai Shirafude Ichimonji turns the brush white and allows him to write new names onto targets whose names have been erased. Whatever name he gives them, they take on those new attributes. Against Yhwach, he wrote Black Ant, and the Quincy King became as weak and powerless as an actual ant. Yhwach had to use the Almighty to reverse his fate and restore his name. Without that ability, Ichibei would have killed him. Next, we have Shuhei Hisagi's Bankai Fushi no Kojo. This was revealed in the Can't Fear Onward light novels. This Bankai resolves Hisagi's lifelong fear of his Zanpakuto. His Shikai Kazashini manifests as twin scythes connected by a chain. Hisagi openly hated it because he thought the design of the Shikai meant that it was purely for killing. His mentor Tosen taught him that anyone who doesn't fear their blade doesn't deserve to wield it, and Hisagi took this to heart. The truth is, Kazashini's shape was intentional. The Zanpakuto spirit knew Hisagi would hate it, and the true essence of Kazashini isn't the scythes, it's the chain. His Bankai wraps chains around both Hisagi and his opponent's necks like nooses. Both become immortal and neither can die. A shared pool of spiritual energy heals both combatants regardless of wounds inflicted. It creates a world where death doesn't exist and life and death are intertwined. Hisagi's fear of killing and being killed becomes manifested as law. The Bankai guarantees a stalemate against any opponent regardless of power. Both fighters are able to experience pain as it drains both of their spiritual energy. Allies need to finish off the enemy once the effect ends. Against Hikone, this strategy worked perfectly. Shinji's Bankai Sakashima Yokoshima Happo Fusagari was never shown in the manga, but it was revealed within the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime, as well as being revealed in the Can't Fear Onward light novels. His Shikai Sakanare creates optical illusions that invert surroundings. His Bankai inverts perceptions of friend and foe. Upon activation, large flower petals surround and encase Shinji for protection. The Bankai releases a mist that flips everyone's perception, enemies and allies alike. Everyone under its influence turns on each other, attacking without hesitation because they perceive comrades as threats. Against a horde of Quincy soldat, it caused mutual slaughter as all of the Quincy killed themselves. Shunsui knew that allies can also be affected, so he gave Shinji permission to use it only when fighting alone against large groups. Senjumaru, Shutaro, Urahara's Bankai, Shitatsu Karagara Shigarami no Suji, was exclusively revealed within episode 26 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. It manifests as a huge ornate loom with countless cloths scattered around. Senjumaru weaves endless tapestries, each creating different environments designed to trap and weaken enemies. One produces intense flames, another reflects attacks back, and another traps targets in black sand as another drains energy. The release sends shockwaves through reality strong enough to wipe out a small army. She seemingly defeated all of Yhwach's elite guards with this Bankai, even briefly taking down Uryu. The anime established that all Zero Division members have their power sealed because even slight usage would shake all three of the realms. The spiritual pressure from a Bankai activation literally caused the three realms to tremble. Genjo Kugo, the first substitute Shinigami and the main villain of the Fullbring arc, has an unnamed Bankai. After he stole Ichigo's Fullbring powers, he gained access to this unnamed Bankai. It resembles a hollowified form more than a traditional Bankai, with skeletal armor and hollow-like facial markings. His spiritual pressure increases exponentially as he fires enhanced Getsuga Tensho and energy beams resembling Sero. The Can't For Your Own World light novels reveal that his Bankai is less of a true Bankai and more of an advanced Fullbring utilizing hollow powers. It's a hybrid fusion of abilities, making him similar to Ichigo. Against Ichigo in their final battle, his Bankai proved to be far weaker than Ichigo's. Within the Spirits Are Forever With You light novels, we learn about the Bankai of Soya Azashiro called Urozakuro. Soya Azashiro was the 8th Kinpachi, claiming the title by killing Kurosaki. His Zanpakuto Urozakuro is the only blade in the Soul Society that exists in a constant Bankai state. His Shikai actually relies on his Bankai being used first. Urozakuro lets him fuse with his surroundings. Earth, air, everything becomes an extension of himself. He can hear conversations from other rooms because areas that he controls become part of his body. He can summon manifestations from the air to cast Kido spells, and he is able to fuse with Kinpachi's body and attempt to crush his lungs from the inside. Against Kinpachi Zaraki, none of this worked as Kinpachi's power wildly fluctuated beyond anything Azashiro could have predicted. At the end of the Spirits Are Forever With You light novels, Azashiro returned to his prison cell in Muken and used a drug, making him perceive every second as hundreds of years so he could train himself in isolation. The 7th Kinpachi, Kurosaki, is an exclusive character from the Spirits Are Forever With You light novels. He's a formidable Shinigami who fought alongside Shunsui for centuries. He's described as warm-hearted and approachable and totally different from the current Kinpachi. His Zanpakuto is a living type like Unohana's Minazuki. In its Shikai form, it manifests as white, eyeless, mouthless creatures the size of bears with fangs. 13 of them float around him. His Bankai, Gagaku Kairo, summons an enormous jaw with giant fangs from the ground that eats and destroys everything within reach, everything except Kurosaki himself. Azashiro admitted that if Kurosaki had immediately released his Bankai, he might have lost their fight. Instead, Kurosaki died standing, telling his subordinates to accept his defeat and not shame the 11th Division. And last but not least, we have the Bankai of Ikko Mikidomoe called Horaku Hake. Ikko Mikidomoe is a Zanpakuto forged from a hollow. It started as one of the most ancient and powerful hollows to ever exist. It was so dangerous that even Baragon made a pact of mutual non-conflict with it during his reign over Hueco Mundo. Its ambition led it to attempt devouring the Soul King himself. That attempt proved to be its undoing. After a battle involving young Yamamoto, Ichibei and Nimaya together, they managed to defeat it. Ichibei erased its original name using Ichimonji, and since normal purification was impossible due to the massive number of souls that it consumed, Nimaya sealed the hollow into a Zanpakuto. Only hybrid beings can wield it, so this means Hikone, Ichigo, and Ginjo, anyone possessing multiple spiritual powers within their soul. Its Bankai functions more like a resurrection because Ikko Mikidomoe is a hollow. When activated, the Zanpakuto dissolves into streams of black and white spiritual pressure surrounding the wielder. It's a perfect fusion of hollow and Shinigami, which creates overwhelming spiritual pressure that shatters limitations placed on hybrid souls. Against the Arrancar trio of of Grimmjow, Neliel, and Haribel, Hikone used Ikomikidomoe after they weakened the Zanpakuto. The resulting transformation gave Hikone speed and power that dwarfed captain level Shinigami. Ichibei's name curse has kept Ikomikidomoe in a weakened state for many years. If it ever broke free and called out its original true name, the results would be catastrophic. The light novels hint at a transcendent form beyond any Bankai or resurrection that we've seen. And there you have it. This is every single Bankai that's been revealed within the Bleach manga, anime, and the light novels. We have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments about which Bankai impressed you the most and which ones you think are the most underrated. I look forward to reading your comments, and lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.